Alrighty, everyone. So I assume that most of you by this point have picked up MacBooks. If not, you can submit a technology ticket at any time, and we'll add you to the list for technology pickup. We're doing it Wednesdays in the afternoon. We're slowly starting to wind that down, though, with summer approaching. So we're going to cover basically some very basic tips on the MacBooks. We're going to talk about using the login window, connecting to wireless, navigating the desktop, basic file management, Chrome Sync, what have you. So a lot of this is probably going to be things, especially early on, that you've already done, seeing as though most of you are using the MacBooks to be in this meeting. But we're going to cover some of the more granular topics on these things. So the first thing I wanted to bring up is the login screen. We've had a number of people have issues with the login screen. The login screen is actually controlled by our management client. So it's not the traditional Mac OS login screen. Anyone that has a MacBook at home is probably a little unfamiliar with it. It uses a concept called single sign-in to use your Google account for your sign-in credentials. Now, with that being said, on the login screen, we have seen a number of errors, but luckily, most of the time, they could all be fixed the same way. So whether your login screen isn't showing wireless, you get a really crazy error, or it's just telling you that it's not working, it can almost always be fixed by hitting the refresh button in the top right here. So that refresh button is just like refreshing your Chrome browser. It'll basically resend the request for your login window. Additionally, I've had a few users that were unable to log in because they never connected to home wireless at home. That wireless icon on the top left, I know it doesn't look very interactable, so to say, but you can click on that and use it to join your wireless network just like you would do when you're actually in the operating system. So just a quick one, the login screen is relatively simple. It uses your EP Schools RI account and your EP Schools RI password. Anytime anytime your email password is reset, your login password will reset as well. Does anyone have questions at all about the login window, or has anyone had any issues with it?
I don't know how to minimize the windows and things.
Great, we'll get to that. Does anybody have any questions about the login window? Just give another minute on that.
So I know this is going to sound really basic, but when we get back to school, will it automatically then pick up on the network at school? I was able to set it up this morning. I'm not on it. I'm using my other computer, but it took me numerous tries, but I was able to get it on the home network. But I'm assuming when we go to school, we don't have to do anything. It'll just transfer to that.
Correct. So
Okay.
That's a great question. So we've had a number of people that have had issues with the wireless at the schools, and that's just because of some tinkering we're doing while nobody's in the buildings. So the MacBooks have all been pushed out to networks, both EP Teachers and the new network that we're moving over to. It's called EduNet. So we can remotely push wireless profiles to the MacBooks, and that's what we've done. So we've originally pushed EduNet, and since we started tinkering, a few people reported issues. We also pushed Teachers just for a second layer of redundancy. So to answer that, yes, your school network will be on your MacBook. Alrighty, so we're going to move on now. So the next topic I'm going to cover is just very briefly connecting to wireless networks. So in Mac OS, I'm not going to cover the login window, but in the desktop, the wireless networks are found up here at the top. So unlike most other operating systems, they're actually listed in alphabetical order. So they're not actually by signal strength. So sometimes you might have a little bit of an issue finding the network that you're looking for. You'll just have to keep in mind they are in alphabetical order. Now, if I go down to the bottom here and I open network preferences, this is kind of a little bit of a specific issue, but I've had issues where people were connecting to the wrong network when they had multiple networks available. So network priority is something that's a little bit buried. It's under here in advanced. And then what you could do is you can actually click and drag these networks, and that will set their priority. So for example, you could see I have both Teachers and EduNet, like I mentioned. I just dragged EduNet to the top so that I'm using EduNet. A few people have connected to the guest network. The guest network at school, Townie's Wi-Fi, is throttled. It's set to a lower download rate, specifically to prevent students from abusing it. So some people might have that issue where they connected to Townies and it was all the way up here in their priority, when in reality it should be at the bottom. So that's just a pro tip there. You can move your priority or decide whether or not you want to automatically join a network. in the Advanced tab under Network Settings.
This is not a Mac related question. Is there a way for me on my end to make your presentation window bigger? It's kind of tiny for me to see exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, if you go ahead and double click on it, it should take up full screen for you. Is that working?
No, it didn't. Sorry.
Are you using
probably, Alfred? It's probably from the grid. If
the
you
grid
turn
view?
the-
I was about to say.
Yeah, if you turn the grid extension off at the top corner, it will make it a bigger screen.
Or is that working for you? Anybody else having that issue?
Yes, but I'm kind of just squinting.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I can't make it any bigger. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt and slow everybody
No,
down.
it's quite all right because everybody has that extension pushed out. So most everybody with grid might have that same issue. So if you click to disable grid, it should look like a waffle with a line through it. Is that what you're seeing now in the top right?
Yes.
All right. And so my screen is, could you describe what it looks like on your end?
You're in the top left-hand corner. You're probably taking up the equivalent of 6 boxes, maybe 9. You're about a fourth of the screen in the top left corner.
Okay. Well, very well. Without seeing that, I can't help too much. Cheapers.
Alfred, sometimes if they leave and come back in, it disables the grid, and then when you're presenting, they can see it big. I've had that before.
Yeah, I'd recommend that. And if that doesn't work, you can hover over my picture and click the pin, and that should pin it to the screen. That might improve it for you as well. I'd recommend that. You could take a second and do that. I'll give anybody that has that issue a second to leave and rejoin.
Okay, I did leave and came back in, and now I have it full screen. So thank you for that.
All right, great. So anyone that has an issue with grid, I'd recommend turning grid off, leaving the meeting, joining back, and it should be the proper view there.
Thank you.
All right, so like I said, I'll just give one more minute or two just to make sure anybody that does have that issue has the opportunity to do that. Alrighty, and with that said, we'll move on to the next topic that we're going to cover, which is the desktop itself. So most of you coming from the Windows environment, obviously macOS is clearly different just from first glance. We don't have a traditional taskbar or a start menu. Instead, we have the dock here at the bottom, which hosts our applications, and we have the taskbar here at the top, which has our settings. So the first thing I'll cover here is the dock. So the dock is pushed out by us. So the configuration that you have should be very similar to mine, where you have the Finder, Launchpad, Chrome, VV, VLC, what have you. If you do have question marks or your dock just looks completely out of whack, you can submit a ticket, and what we could do is re-push that dock profile. So the dock, like I said, is managed by us. It has all of these applications. If you have question marks, we can reinstall those applications and re-push. That should fix your issue. Now, one thing you'll notice about the dock is that there's 3 kind of regions. There's the far left, which are your applications. There's the middle here, which are your active applications, and then there's the far right, which are the other active windows. So we push the far left and the far right. So I'll go, first thing I'll cover is just kind of chronological order is the Finder. So Finder is the file explorer for macOS. So you can open Finder by either clicking on the Finder logo or by using the keyboard shortcut Option, Command, Space. So if you just hit those 3 buttons all at once, it'll open a Finder window. So once again, Finder is the file explorer. You can find it down here in the bottom left, or you can use the shortcut Option, Command, Space all at once. So with that said, let's open a Finder window. And you can see that we have some files here. So on the left, we have our favorites. You can move any folder to your favorites by just dragging it on in there. So for example, I'll make a new folder here. Oh, sorry, let me go to my desktop here. I have a new folder called Untitled Folder. If I just drag that into the left there, it'll create it as a favorite. So that way, if you're the kind of person that keeps a lot of your files on your desktop in folders, maybe arranged by year or by class, you could simply drag those folders right into the left to create a favorite. All right. So one more thing you might have noticed in macOS is that you don't have a right click on your trackpad. So when you're trying to rename a folder or move it, delete it, or what have you, that might give you a little trouble. There are a few different ways to right click in macOS. You can click with 2 fingers simultaneously on the trackpad, or you can hold the control button and click on the folder. So control click, right click, all does the same thing. Now back in Finder, we'll use this as well to kind of demonstrate window management. So macOS window management is much, it's quite different from Windows, to say the least. So one thing that a lot of people have trouble with is they get stuck in a full screen window and they don't very well know how to get out of it. So in Windows, you have the maximize button. In macOS, you have full screen. Right? When you click full screen, your dock, your taskbar, everything is hidden. Now to get out of full screen, all you have to do is go up to the top, hold your mouse there for a second, and you'll see that green button reappear. Now, alternatively, what you can do is click and hold on that green button, and you'll enter split view mode. Just like with Windows, how you could snap a window to the side to make it take up half your screen, by clicking and holding on that green full screen button, you can drag it to one side of the screen and have it take up that half in full screen mode. Just like with before, if you hold your mouse at the top and click that button again, you'll be able to exit full screen mode. Now, you may be wondering, how can I have a true maximize button? I don't like full screen mode. I don't want to use it. Personally, I don't use it either. What you can do is you can hold down the option key here. On my keyboard, it actually has the symbol. On our MacBooks, it does not. It's the option key. On your MacBooks, it says Alt Option. What you could do is if you hold that key down and press the green button, it'll just maximize the window, change the size. Alternatively, this is much easier. I recommend this. You could just double click anywhere in the empty gray area, and it'll make it take up your full screen. So you can go ahead, just double click to resize like that. Minimize works the same as it does in Windows. If you minimize using this yellow button here, you'll see that it goes over to the right side of my dock with all my other minimized windows. If I click, I bring it back up, and the red X, just like it would in Windows, the red X will close that window. Another note on window management, I'm going to open up a whole bunch of Finder windows here just to simulate kind of a desktop clutter scenario where you have a lot of windows. So sometimes it's a little difficult to find which window you want, whether you have to click through them or hunt through them. It's a little inconvenient. What you can do is press the F3 button. Now, I don't have that icon on my keyboard, but it's the 4th key in from the top left. It has 3 boxes on it. What that button will do is launch Mission Control. What Mission Control is a full screen viewer that shows all of your desktops, all of your full screen windows, all of your open applications. So I'll do that again. So let's say I have a whole bunch of windows. They're disorganized. I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. If I hit that F3 button, it'll take me to Mission Control. I can see my full screen windows up here. I can see my desktop. I can see all of my open windows. Does anybody have any questions about window management or Mission Control or anything of the sort? Wonderful. All right, so what I'm going to do is
Yes, I do. Hang on a second.
No rush. I'll give you some more time. What can we cover for you?
So it said that all of a sudden I have a Finder. When I first started, because I changed over to the other computer to try to manipulate the Apple computer, and it said Chrome rather than Finder.
Yep. So Chrome is, you're saying that you don't have this Finder logo in your dock, or?
Now I do. Ever since I hit F3.
All right,
but
great.
I have things like on the side here, on the left hand, right hand side near the trash bin. Scroll down and I hit the F3 and it just says desktop. Do I have to hit it twice?
So when you hit F3, all of your active windows and your full screen windows will be shown. So your full screen windows will be here at the top. Your active windows will be down here as well. Those are minimized windows. they're not like clutter. So for example, if I take all of these and minimize them, they're not actively part of my desktop right now, so they won't show. Minimizing is kind of putting it to the side. So if you did want to see all of those windows at once tiled, you'd have to bring them on up from your minimized windows area, and then F3 will show them. So it's kind of an aside. In Windows, everything is kind of minimized when it's not being used. In macOS, it's more of a it's more of a productivity thing. Your full screen windows take up all of your attention. Your minimized windows are tucked away to the side.
Okay. Would you be able to maybe later on, every time I open up the computer, it says Mac OS Catalina to set up installation of Mac OS Catalina, click to continue.
No worries. That's something that we'll cover later on, and that's going to be covered under notifications. That is kind of a pesky one, and that's something we're working to address.
Okay.
I will cover that in more in depth later on, and like I said, we will have a healthy Q&A period at the end of this where we'll address macOS Catalina in a little bit more depth.
All right. Thank you.
No worries. Does anybody else have any questions specifically about window management or mission control or anything of the sort? All right, wonderful. So we're going to move on to the next topic. Like I said previously, this whole demonstration, this whole PD will be recorded, and we're always here if you do need any help. And at the end, we will have a healthy Q&A session. The next thing I'm going to cover is, quite honestly, one of my personal favorite features in macOS, and the one that I recommend most to people whenever they're learning the operating system, and that is called the Spotlight search. So the Spotlight search can be accessed by using a quick hotkey. It is Command and space. So if you hit Command space together at the same time, you'll bring up the Spotlight search. This is basically an all-in-one search solution. Does anybody, the first person throw it out there, want to tell me something I could search for? Maybe a setting or what have you. Great, I'm going to search for the dock. So if I type in dock, I see all of these results. So I can get to my dock in System Preferences. It shows me some other suggested settings, shows me a description of the dock, as well as some suggested websites. If I wanted to search for files named dock in Finder, I could very well do that as well. So once again, Spotlight search you can bring up by using the Command space hotkey. Oops, sorry. Command space at the same time will bring up Spotlight search, and from there I can search and launch applications, find files, or other settings.
So I'm sorry, this is like not Google. This is not a I don't know what I'm trying to say. This is to hunt through like all your own files, or I'm confused what this is.
This is a search specifically for applications and files on the operating system. It's not so much a web search. So for example, if I wanted to Google APA or something, you can very well do that from here, but that's not necessarily the intent. The intent is to find applications, files, or other things that you might be looking for on your computer. For example, if I wanted to add a home printer, I could type in printer and boom, there are my settings for printers. Does anyone have any other questions about Spotlight search?
Alfred, this is Dave Nelson. Can you add a home computer, or is that locked out by administrative password?
A home printer?
Yes.
Yes, you can, and we'll cover that just a little bit later on.
Thank you.
Wonderful. I'll just give it another minute if anybody else has any other questions about Spotlight search or searching specifically on the device. All right, wonderful. So to segue from Spotlight search to launch programs, to segue from Spotlight search to launch programs, we're going to talk about the launch pad. So tying back to the dock here, the launch pad is the second option. What the launch pad does is it shows you a full screen array of all of your applications present on the device. You can launch it by either clicking on the rocket ship on the dock or by pressing the F4 key. Now, my keyboard here on the screen doesn't show that symbol, but it's this button right here. It's the fourth one in, or sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fifth one in from the top left corner. So if you press F4 or click that Launchpad, you'll be greeted with all of your applications that are on your device. Now you might have multiple pages. If so, you can page over using 2 fingers or by clicking and dragging. And from here, you can launch any application present on your device. For example, let's say I wanted to launch VLC Media Player. If I click on the traffic cone, it will launch. I'm going to give that a close. Now let's say I have an application that I want to put onto my dock from Launchpad. It's quite simple. Really, all you have to do is click it and drag it down in here. So let's say I want to put Microsoft Word onto my dock. I can open the Launchpad by clicking the rocket ship, click and drag Microsoft Word downwards, hold it in that dock for just a second, release it, and there it is. I can do that with anything that's in here. If I wanted to search for a specific application, let's say I have a lot of stuff in here, I could just search. If I want Chrome, I just type it in. There are all of my applications that match the keyword Chrome. Now let's say you personally don't use a lot of these applications. Let's say you want to tidy things up, remove some of these applications, whatever. All you have to do is click and drag. This is my personal best option. Click and hold on that application and drag it right on top of another, and you'll make a folder. So let's say I don't use Microsoft Word and Excel. I'm going to take Word, click and drag it right on top of Excel, and that's going to put it in a folder with it. Let's say I don't use PowerPoint either. I can click and drag that right into that folder. And once it's in there, it basically doesn't exist, or you could use that as a way to compartmentalize your applications that you use most frequently. Again, you could just click and drag any application, hold it right over another, and that'll put it in a folder with it. From here, you can click on the folder. You can rename the folder by clicking on the name. And you can exit just by clicking off of the active area. Does anybody have any questions regarding Launchpad and how to find applications in it?
So if there's applications you want, like the Word, like a number of the ones you just went over, I don't have any of those. Those are, IT will be able to load those for me?
They're most likely on your second page. What I'll do is I'll create a second page here real quick, just so I could show you how to better gain access to that. So a lot of people have there are a lot of applications.
Yeah.
So if you use 2 fingers and swipe over, you can change pages. You can click on the little dots here at the bottom to change pages. Or if you click your mouse and drag, you can change pages that way. Kind of like a flick motion, so to say.
Yeah, I found it. Okay, thank you.
Great. And from there, like I said, you can move those applications, pin them to the dock, whatever you prefer. If you would like to change pages with an application, it's the same way. You can click and hold that application, drag it over to the side of the screen, hold it there for just a second, and you've just moved it over to another page. Does that answer your question?
Alfred?
Yes, I couldn't find the microphone. Yes, thank you.
All right, wonderful. Yes, Ben?
Just one quick question or a note is that because the dock is managed by us, that if you drag items into the dock, they may, erase from time to time. Like when we do an update to that dock, I'm not sure they will, but they may. So the items like you added Excel and Word, they could disappear on you again when we do some updates to the system on the management side. Any changes in the Launchpad that you make, like foldering and stuff, that won't get affected, but the dock could.
Correct. To what Ben says is, like I said earlier, the dock is managed by us. We do push to make sure certain applications are on there. Every once in a while, we do have users that have issues, and when that is the case, we kind of hit a reset button. But you could still put those applications right back in there the same way. Your Launchpad will remain unaffected.
This may be a more advanced question, but how are we going to get all the stuff that's on our current HPs on, like all of our documents, and I have a million things on here that need to be transferred over.
No worries.
Somebody will help us with that.
I'll be covering that later on once I start talking about Google Drive. So the recommended way of moving your files over is by uploading them to Google Drive. And once they are in Google Drive, any computer that you sign into with your Google account will have those files. I'll cover that more in depth a little bit later.
All right. I'm moaning because I don't like Google Drive. Okay, thank you.
No worries. Any other questions about Launchpad?
Alfred?
Yes.
It's Diane. I'm just going to interject for 1 second. I don't know if everyone knows this, but If you hold Command and hit D, it will turn on and off your microphone. It's a little bit quicker than trying to find the microphone on the bottom sometimes.
Thanks for that tip.
Okay.
Is there a limit to how many, so I noticed that some are clustered in other, can those be spread out so we can see them better?
Are you talking about your applications in Launchpad or on your dock?
In Launchpad.
So when you say clustered together, what do you mean? Sorry.
Like, for instance, you know the one that says manager on your screen, the one directly above it, or the second one in?
That is a folder.
Right.
So you can expand that folder to see all the applications inside of it. As well, you can move applications into or out of that folder by clicking and dragging them. If you do want to move files, applications out of a folder, all you have to do is click and drag it, take it out of that folder, and then you have it in the large view again.
Okay, thank you.
I've gone ahead and moved most of mine into folders because it's just a little bit easier to find things that way for me. But if you do want to move them out, you could just click them, drag them right out, and then even from there, you could put them right into your dock.
Okay, that is called a DOCK dock?
Yes, a dock, just like you would drive a boat up to, a docking.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
So we're going to move on to the next thing, which is kind of a more granular dock management. So you'll see that I have a lot of applications in my dock right now. So what I'm going to do is minimize my keyboard just for now because we won't be using that. So if I want to unpin an application from my dock, to do that, all I have to do is click and hold, and then you'll see that settings menu appear. I can go to options and then click remove from dock. I'll do that again a little slower. So you can either click and hold, go to options, remove from dock, or you can hold down that control key from earlier, which is a shortcut for right click, and then you have that options menu again. You can choose to open it at login, show that file, that application in your file explorer, or remove it from dock. So as well, I have some other applications here open from earlier. I'm going to do the same thing. Just click and hold. I have some other settings. I'm going to go remove from dock. Additionally, if you have an application that you were using that you hadn't put in your dock yet, let's say you can't find it and you want it in your dock, you can use that same trick there to pin it to your dock just by saying keep in dock. And then what you'll see this do is move it over to the left. And from here, it's permanently in my dock. The next thing in the dock that's really important is the Maintenance Technology Support Portal shortcut. So if you go ahead and click on that, it'll take you right to the ticketing portal. And from there, you can submit tickets a lot faster and get to us a lot simpler. That's a shortcut that we push out with the configuration. The next few things that you'll see in the dock there, like I said, are those minimized applications. The final thing we'll see in the dock here is the trash bin. So the trash bin is just like the recycle bin in Windows. Your deleted files will go there and they'll stay there until you empty it out or until your system automatically deletes them for more space. You can open or empty your trash bin from here. I'm just going to empty it. Once you empty your trash bin, these files are permanently deleted. There's no way of recovering them. So your trash bin, just like anything else, is really just a folder where files are stored until they're wiped out. We're going to talk a little bit about customizing the dock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my Spotlight search shortcut, which is Command space, just like I did before, and I'm going to type in dock. Now this will bring me to the dock in System Preferences. System Preferences are the settings on your Mac. So just like the control panel in Windows. Once you're in System Preferences, if you prefer to do it this way, you could just type in dock. System Preferences, just like Spotlight search, will find that dock and highlight it for you. So here we are in the dock settings. Like I said before, we do push these dock settings out automatically. However, you still can customize them. So for example, let's say I want a larger dock. Let's say it's, weary on my eyes to see those smaller icons. Let's say I want a bit of a smaller dock. Let's say I want my dock on the left side of the screen or the right side of the screen. Whatever your personal preference is. As well, one that I truly recommend is automatically hide and show the dock. When you select this, the dock will automatically hide until you move your mouse over it. I'm going to move my dock back down to the bottom and show that again. So if your dock is automatically hidden, it will tuck itself away at the bottom of the screen, and you can call it out by moving your mouse down to the bottom. As well, there are some other settings in here you can tinker with and play with, whatever your personal preference is. For the time being, I'm going to go ahead and show my dock again and make it a little larger. Does anybody have any questions about managing applications on the dock or customizing the dock? Wonderful. So from here, we're going to use what we just learned to cover system preferences in a little bit more granular detail. So system preferences can be found down here in the docking station. It's the little gear. If you can't find it in the docking station, you can find it either by opening the Launchpad or through Spotlight Search. Again, Spotlight Search being that Command space hotkey. So I'm going to open System Preferences from my dock down here. Once we're in System Preferences, you can see a lot of different settings are available to us. If we want to change our desktop, our dock, and some general settings. The first one I'm going to cover is one that I prefer, which is in General. I'm going to switch over to Dark Mode. I think it's a lot easier on the eyes. So you can see that in macOS, some of you might have already noticed it, your computer will kind of change with the time. So you might notice that the desert in the background will become kind of more of a purplish hue in the afternoon, and at night it might switch to this dark mode. You can set that manually. So if you prefer to always have dark mode, you can do that here. As well, from here, there's some more customization options like changing your accent color, highlight color, and what have you. This is all personal preference, so I'm not going to cover this too much, but just know that it's there if you'd like to tinker with it. The next thing I'll cover is the the desktop and screensaver. The desktop and screensaver is your background and as well as your lock screen, basically, what the screen will show whenever it's not being used. So you can change this to whatever you prefer. You can even upload your own pictures. What I mentioned earlier about those dynamic desktops, these are the ones that change as the day goes on. So that might provide you more of a brighter and more animated desktop in the day, and then kind of a more calm one at night. Again, this is personal preference, so I'm not going to cover this too much. You can feel free to tinker with it as much as you'd like. Does anybody have questions about general customization and preferences?
I just have a general question. Like in Windows, I'm just getting so confused here. There's a little X when you want to get rid of the box. Like I have a million things already up on this, and there's no X to like get rid of it. And you may have mentioned that before. So
yeah, no worries.
Launchpad, but I'm like, I don't see how to get rid of all these windows that are now open.
Okay, so what you can do, the X is in the top left here on macOS. So whereas in Windows, the X was in the top right. The settings, the functionality is the same. It will close the window or minimize the window, whether you use the X or the minus.
It's in the top left. Okay.
Correct.
I'm looking in the right.
No worries. And you can use that to close your windows.
Okay. It's like driving on the other side of the road. Okay. Thank you.
No worries. Does anybody else have any other questions about customization as far as the cosmetics go?
Can you just please review how you can change it from, well, how it changes automatically as the day goes on?
Sure, I can give that a try. I don't know if I can trick the system into doing that. This dynamic desktop will change into a more sunset or a night mode as I go on. I'm going to try now to change the time so I could see if I can demonstrate that for you, but I'm not sure if it'll work if I do it manually. Just give me 1 second here. I'm just going to set myself to the afternoon and see if it'll do it for me. Yep, so you can see I set my clock to 7 p.m. and now it's just like in 7 p.m. in the real world, it's starting to get a little darker out. So if I set it to maybe midnight, I think we can get it to be in true dark mode. And again, you can set your dark mode manually in those settings that I just covered. So here I'm going to set myself to 11 p.m. and you can see that now it's starting to look a little dark out. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So that will happen naturally through the day. Of course, I just modified my time manually, but that will happen naturally.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Alrighty. So if nobody else has any questions about general customization, we're going to go back into system preferences and cover some more things. Now, one thing that somebody touched upon earlier was printers. Now, printers are kind of a fun topic because they're one of those things that always work when you don't need them and never work when you do. So let's go ahead and head on into printers here. You can either click on the printer here, or you can type in printer, and system preferences will highlight that for you. So once you're in the printers and scanners menu, you can see that we've already pushed out all of the district printers to your device. You can see them all by scrolling with 2 fingers or by using the scroll bar on the right. You can add your own home printer by using the plus down here in the bottom left. By clicking that plus, you'll open the Add Printer wizard. This is a fairly automatic process. If your printer is connected to your home network, it'll automatically show up here. You can see that mine's here right now. To add it, all I'll have to do is select it. Just waiting a second for it to load here. It's going to automatically select the printer driver to use or the method to use it with. If you do have issues, you can tinker with these. And then you can hit Add. Now, like I said, this is a fairly automatic process. All printers communicate differently, so you might have to tinker with those first few settings. But for the most part, everything should work just by hitting that plus button, finding your printer, and then hitting Add. Does anybody have any questions specifically about adding printers?
I just have a comment. This usually covers 95% of the printers. If your printer needs software installed, feel free to open a ticket and we'll help you out with that.
I have a question. Are we able to plug in to our computer and print?
Correct. So you should be able to add, if your printer isn't automatically detected by plugging it directly in, you can very well hit that plus icon there and it should detect it. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful. If you do have any issues, like we said, you could feel free to submit a ticket and we'll walk you through it as best as we can. Okay, so we're going to back out of printers and we're going to cover some of the more, I want to say, quality of life issues that you could address here in system preferences. So some of you may have connected an external mouse to your laptop, and then when you go to scroll, you'll notice that it's backwards. Or sometimes on your trackpad, you'll notice that that's scrolling backwards. macOS uses a natural scroll. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open the mouse option here, or just like always, I can search for it. Nope, sorry. So I don't actually have a mouse connected. The setting that I'm trying to find here is also present. Is also present in Trackpad. So what I'm going to do is use Trackpad instead. You can also find this option in mouse if you do have a mouse connected. For this demonstration, I do not, so that setting is not available to me. So what I'm going to do is open the Trackpad here. The Trackpad is the trackpad at the bottom of your device that you use to move your mouse cursor. Now you can see in here that they have some nice graphics that show you some of the gestures and some of the scrolling directions. So here you can see that shortcut I mentioned earlier, where you can right-click using 2 fingers simultaneously. You can also move the cursor speed down here at the bottom. And this is one of the more fun things, is the scroll direction. So like I said, if you've connected a mouse, you might notice that it scrolls backwards. That's because that mouse is using natural scroll direction. You can disable that or enable that here in the settings. Now you might notice that this is kind of auto-playing. It's showing different videos in different settings. This is meant to be kind of a self-guided settings menu here. So if you do want to tinker with that and play with that more, you could feel free to. They have some great videos and animations in here. Does anyone have any questions about mice in specific? Wonderful. The next topic we're going to cover are keyboards. So I don't have a keyboard connected, so let me connect one right now. And some of you might be familiar with what comes up. So I've just connected a keyboard, whether it's a wireless keyboard or a wired keyboard. macOS will launch this keyboard identification wizard. So this is fairly self-explanatory, but I'm going to walk through it here just in case anybody has had any issues with it in the past. Once you plug your keyboard in, it's going to prompt you to hit a couple of keys. What this is doing is identifying what type of keyboard you're using. That way all of the buttons work correctly. So you could see that I just went ahead and clicked on the buttons that it prompted me to, and it automatically identified my keyboard as a United States 101 key keyboard. Now all I have to do is hit done, and it'll accept this. And now I can type on my keyboard. Again, this will work whether you have a wired or wireless keyboard. There are some other appliances that you might connect that prompt you to go through this wizard. So for example, I have a barcode scanner. When I plugged my barcode scanner, it wanted me to press the button next to the shift key. There are no keys on a barcode scanner. All I had to do was close out of that menu and my barcode scanner still worked. So let's say you have another external keyboard or an external number pad. If you are unable to complete that wizard, you can oftentimes just close it and use your keyboard normally. It'll still detect it. Does anyone have any questions about keyboards? Wonderful. So most of these other settings are relatively personal. So for example, you can change some other things, your sounds, your volumes, what have you. You can feel free to play with this. One setting that is kind of personal, but I still want to cover are notifications. So for example, a lot of you might get a lot of Hangouts notifications, notifications about updates, notifications about emails. Let's just say you want to turn some of those on or off, or let's say you don't want them at certain times. By going into the notifications on system preferences, again, I can search for it if I prefer. You can change which notifications you receive and when you receive them. So you might already notice that on my device, I've turned off a lot of these notifications. I've turned off my Chrome notifications, my Hangouts notifications, and if I scroll down, you can see I've also turned off my other reminders. I think somebody asked about being prompted for the Catalina update. That's one of these notifications here, and you could very well turn that off just the same way. I do believe it's under here in reminders. The system is reminding you to update all the time. As well, if you prefer to just not receive updates, let's say during the school day while you're teaching, you don't want students to see what's coming up on your computer, you can turn on Do Not Disturb. What Do Not Disturb will do is snooze all banners and alerts. You won't see Hangouts notifications, you won't see emails, and you won't see calendar alerts. This is kind of neat to have up maybe when you're teaching a lesson or having a presentation. Does anyone have any questions about notifications?
I have a question about, my daughter has, well, Apple devices here at home. When I signed on, this constantly asks me if I want to sync my devices. Obviously this is work and I don't have any Apple devices. Is there a way I could shut that off so it stops asking me?
Yeah, so I do believe that's covered under the, let me just pull that back up for you. I do believe that's covered under the reminders. So the Apple ecosystem is one where, let's just say everything is meant to be interconnected. So what the laptop might be doing is discovering your daughter's devices on the same wireless network and saying, hey, do you want to add this? I do believe you can disable that in reminders. I think that's what that falls under. I'm not entirely too sure. If you do find out which notification it falls under, you can let me know, and I'd be glad to make a response out of that in case we get further tickets for it.
Tina, just as a comment, I would actually, if you could take a screenshot of that message and put it in as a ticket, that would help us, because we would, we've done our best to try to keep these devices as, school-oriented, private, not sharing, private iCloud accounts. We would certainly like to make sure we address that issue. So if you could screenshot that and send that in, we would like to make sure we push that out through our management platform as well.
Okay.
Alrighty, does anyone else have any other questions about notifications or any of the other settings we've covered so far? All right, one more thing that I should cover are accessibility settings. So whether you have, some sort of need or some sort of accommodation you need, you can usually find something to help you out in the accessibility settings. So you might have noticed that I've been using this on-screen keyboard here. This is actually found in the accessibility settings. If I pop open my system preferences again, and I can either type in accessibility, or it's located down here at the bottom. Now there's an on-screen screen reader, there's live captions, all sorts of things that can help you use your device better if you do have any. Honestly, you don't even need to have any sort of disability. Some of these might just be better quality of life. For example, if you want to use text-to-speech, you can enable that. As well, there are captions, other things that'll help you out. So I just wanted to cover that just to be mindful of that. So we're going to move off of system preferences here, and we're going to talk more so about Google Chrome, Chrome Sync, and what have you. Before we do get into Google Chrome, are there any are there any further questions about settings, applications, or anything else we've covered so far?
Hi, I have a question. I've been using my own personal MacBook Air, and I have a iPad that I've set up as like an external camera. I used Epic Cam, so I'm curious, can I download, not download, can I get into the App Store, or can I sync it to somehow my own apps so that I can continue to use that feature, or is there something better to use if I'm trying to?
Oh, so no worries. So any applications, any installations, anything that you do need or request, you can submit that as a ticket. Like I said, all of these devices are managed through our management platform. That's how we push applications and what have you. So if you do have an application that you need or something of the sort, you could just put in a ticket and we'll either install that for you, get you an alternative, or see if that's something that's already baked into the operating system.
Okay.
All right, wonderful.
Does that include iTunes? Because I'm a music teacher, so I have playlists and things in my own Mac that I've been using.
If you are a music teacher, you could submit a ticket. We're working with the music teachers now, specifically at the middle school level, to get things like digital audio workstations and music players sorted out. If you submit a ticket for that, we can get you sorted out.
Thank you.
No worries. Best of luck.
Alfred, I have a question. In the dock, on one of the symbols is a question mark, and when I hit it and try to go to options to remove it, it's not allowing me to. Is it because it's a question mark?
Yep. So I'm glad that I'm glad you brought that up. So I had mentioned earlier, sometimes you might have these question marks on your dock. So what that means is either your dock profile is not correct or that application didn't install correctly. If you submit a ticket with your device number, it's located on the bottom. We can get that sorted out for you. So all of these applications here, Chrome, VV, VLC, Visualizer, those are ones that we push. If that application wasn't pushed correctly, you'll be left with a question mark. If you submit a ticket, we'll get that sorted out for you.
All right, thanks.
Oh, thank you. All right, so now we're going to move into Google Chrome. So you'll notice that I'm already signed in here. But what I'll do is I'll open a new window here, and I will sign in as somebody else. So most of you should have already noticed by now when you did sign into your account that you are prompted to do what's called a sync or enable a Chrome sync. What that does is it carries over all of your bookmarks, passwords, everything that comes with your Chrome profile. So you'll notice that in the top left here, we've put in EPSD bookmarks. That's pushed out to your device, and that gives you some good bookmarks that are helpful. As well, all of your other bookmarks, as you can see, I have a ton up here, those will come over to your device once you enable sync. So let me see if I can get an account here. Just 1 second, so I can show you what sync looks like. While I'm doing this, does anybody have any questions about Google Chrome, sync, bookmarks, or anything of the sort?
What does sync do?
What sync does is it makes sure that all of your district data goes with you no matter what device you use. So when you sign into Google Chrome the first time, it prompts you to sync. I'm going to show a demonstration of that once I get an account ready. As you can see, all of my bookmarks I have up here, so for example, my email and what have you, all of that will go with me so long as I sign into the browser, no matter which computer I use. All of my I can't show you my passwords for obvious reasons. All of my passwords, Skyward, Gmail, ASOP, they'll all go with you so long as you sign into Chrome wherever you go. So that's basically the rule of thumb. No matter where you go, use Google Chrome, and no matter where you go, sign in.
And while Alfred's working on doing a demo for the sign-in, just as an, so for everyone understands, that helps if ever there's a problem with your device in the classroom. If you sign into a Chromebook, all of your settings, all of your history, everything that you've done comes right over. So it's a helpful thing as a backup plan. If you're ever in a classroom and your device isn't working, you can just grab a Chromebook and sign in with it. And that's an option we like to make available to everyone.
So just another question I have. So if and when we go back to the school, since we now have these MacBooks, we'll no longer have the dock where with the HP, we had to click that into the dock. We'll be able to take this if we have to move classrooms. I can take this with me and be able to perform any lessons that I need to do just by using this.
Yep, I'll respond to that one, Alfred, for you. During this summer, we are installing the VV wireless projection into every classroom in the district, as well as any shared spaces and libraries. So these devices all have the software ready to go. So you open that software, you sign in with your Google account, and then you can pick any room that you're going to operate in, and it will allow you to project wirelessly. So there's no more docking stations, HDMI cables, all that stuff goes away with this new solution. So we had gotten about 100 of the classrooms done before we had to vacate the premises, but we plan to get that all completed this summer since the buildings will be nice and empty for us.
Thank you.
Alrighty. So we're going to go ahead and cover sync now. So what I've had to do is just create a quick account and bookmark some things. So I'm sorry about that interruption there. So what I'm going to do is simulate, so to say, adding myself to Chrome the first time. So the first time you launch Google Chrome on your MacBook, and most of you should have already done this, you'll be prompted to sign into Chrome. So what you'll do here is you'll enter in your EP Schools RI email address and password. And you'll receive a couple of prompts. So I'm just going to give it a second to show up. So the first one you'll see is turn on sync. So to this, you want to say, yes, I'm in. If you don't agree to sync, then your bookmarks and passwords won't carry over. So you can see now that on this user, I'm starting to get my bookmarks and my extensions all populating in real time. So like Ben had addressed previously, if you ever do have any issue with your device and you have to sign into another device or a Chromebook or even your own personal device, you can very well sign into Chrome with your EP Schools RI account and have all of your data there safely. Does anybody have any questions about Chrome Sync?
Can you go through that again, like quickly? Like where did you go?
Of course. So the first time you sign in, and this will only happen the first time you sign in, you'll be prompted to sync your data. So you'll want to agree to that. You can check to see if your data is syncing by clicking in the top right here on your portrait, and you'll see this blip here that says sync is on. So as long as you're syncing, all of your data will carry over to you, whatever device you use. Alrighty, so another important thing about being signed into Google is that your Google Drive account is accessible to you. So somebody had asked before previously that, how do I get my files over? How do I move everything over? It's a headache. It's intimidating, what have you. All you have to do is on your old device, click on the application button here and go to Google Drive. From here, you can upload all of your important files to Google Drive and you'll have access to them in real time on your MacBook. So this user here doesn't have any files in their Google Drive. However, if they were in here, I could access them from here in real time. If you do have any further issues with using Google Drive or you're unable to upload files or what have you, you could feel free to submit a ticket and we'll get that sorted for you. As well, there are plenty of helpful tutorials online that we could point you over to. Now, Google Drive is a bit more of a healthier topic that we could talk about on another time, and I'm sure there are tons of resources out there. However, at this point, we're kind of cutting it close to the end of the PD time, so I'd just like to open it up, just a healthy Q&A. Any questions that we can help you with or any issues you've been having, please feel free to bring them forward, and Ben and I will do our best to address them.
I have a question.
Yes.
This is Don. So I'm Don L. Raposa. because there's another Donna Reposa in the system, spells her name the same way. So every time I go to sign in, I have to use other user, and then it accepts my password. I just can't type my password. It says Donna Reposa. I can't type in my password. It won't accept it. But if I do other user and do my password, I'm in. So I don't know if it's because of the other Donna Reposa when I got the laptop.
Oh, so you're talking about an issue with the Windows devices, how you have to hit other user in the bottom left?
As soon as I open the screen, it says Donna Reposa and it says password. I can't get in. If I click the bottom and I type my password in, I'm in. But I have to type my email address in every day, and I have to type in my password.
Won't be a problem anymore because now with this system, we're using the Google account for everything, including the login to the device. So you don't have to worry about that additional account. Those are what we call the Windows accounts. Those are no longer an issue because we're not using Windows.
So when I open my computer, should I just be able to put my password in?
Yep, when you first boot up your MacBook, it'll ask you for your email address and your password, and then once you've signed in and your computer goes into the lock state where it's just going to ask you the password. There will be no additional steps.
So all right, I'll try it.
And of course, if you have any issues, the ticket system button is the little globe in the bottom. We certainly are here to help you.
Okay, thanks.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
I typed it in the side there when you were talking about how the classrooms in the school buildings will have no longer the docking station. So I'm a phys ed teacher at Silver Spring, and currently I have like a laptop cart, and the HP I was using I would wire it to connect to the projector, and then it would project onto a screen I would pull down. So what is going to happen as far as that with me being able to project my health and phys ed lessons in the gym?
Hi, Michaela. So I did respond in the chat. It probably went up top pretty quickly, but our goal is to have all of the systems using Vivi by the fall. We have the budgeting stuff has been all mixed up by this issue. Sorry, I'm being attacked by my 3-year-old at the same time. So the plan right there is to get you guys a projector that will work with the Vivi and then be able to have that wireless casting work in the gym as well. So that's all part of the plan. If we don't get to it, we do have adapters so you could still hardwire to it, but my goal is to get rid of the hardwiring scenarios.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, I didn't see a response. And no worries about the 3-year-old. I have one on my lap right now.
No problem.
Google Drive question. So much of what we've been getting is PDFs, and the way I have to find the PDF is by doing a search. It doesn't come up in the drive on the left as like a place we can search that way. Is there a way that you could do that?
So Stephanie, are you referring to, just to confirm, in Google Drive, or are you referring to in macOS in general?
I don't know what I'm referring to, but I know that I've had to save a lot of things as PDFs, and I don't, when I go into my drive, I have to always do a search to find the PDF versus, like doesn't seem to be like a folder for PDFs or.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? To find like PDF.
Of course. So let me just open up that other account here, and I'll show you how to have a little bit more. You can actually search by file type in Google Drive. Let me just pop open mine real quick. So you can search, for example, there are some conditions you can use. So for example, you can type in sheet or doc, and you'll find some docs. I do believe if you type in .pdf and you search that way, it'll show you only PDFs in your search result. If not, it's a different conditioner, and I can get that to you in a different way. But it looks like that's it. If you search period PDF or type :PDF, that will show you specifically PDFs.
That is the way I do it, but is there any way to do it on the left side in the more like to manage, to have a folder for your PDFs or something like that?
Of course. What you can do is you can make a file folder in Google Drive, just like you normally would. You can do that search again, and then you could move those files into that folder. So for example, I can make a quick folder here. I'll call it PDF. I can search for type :PDF. Oops, sorry. I just rolled my keyboard a little bit. And then I can move those files right into that folder from the search. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
All right, great.
Lemonade and it tastes very good. Alfred, it's Linda.
Howdy.
If I am searching
Google extensions. Am I allowed to just add them in if I find one that I like? Like, for example, in Windows, we had the Paint. And so the other day, Google Suite has a Paint Z. Can I just add that in so I'm allowed to use it?
Correct. So staff members are allowed to install any extensions. They're not like students who are subject to a whitelist. However, it should be noted that there are a lot of extensions that are kind of misleading or may want more data. And some of them even generate advertisements. We're working, with users to try to get those blocked and removed as soon as we discover them. However, I would just try to aim for some that seem more reputable, have a lot of reviews or something of the sort. But yes, you can install any extension from the web store that you prefer.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
This question is for either Alfred or Ben. I think there was a question in the chat area. At the elementary level, is it correct that we will no longer be using the smartboard? I don't think the MacBooks have the smartboard software installed. I know we've had many conversations about that, but it's my understanding that smartboard technology will no longer be used. Is that correct?
I was just giving Ben a second to see if he wanted to answer that one.
Yeah, Alfred, I would. My kids are actually gonna melt down here in a moment. So why don't you shoot me an email on that one? I'll explain it. It's a lengthy conversation, but it's certainly something that we're looking to support them the best we can. But it's trying to mix modern technology with 15-year-old technology right now, and it's certainly a challenge. But we're doing our best to support it.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question on the VV.
Yes.
So if I know right now with the, I have a projector and an Elmo. Will there be an Elmo that would be able to be used in some way?
So the VV itself is just a head unit for the projector. Everything else will remain the same. Your Elmo is likely hardwired directly into your projector, and it would stay the same way. So the goal with the upgrade is that nobody loses their Elmo's document cameras or any other capabilities.
So how does the VV work?
The VV is just like a Chromecast. If you've ever used a Chromecast, it's a wireless casting device that plugs directly into the projector. And what that does is it basically means that you can communicate with the projector wirelessly instead of using a cable.
Okay. I'm not following it, so.
Oh, sorry, no worries. So the VV is a small box that is attached directly to the projector. And why I say that because it won't interfere with anything else in the classroom, except now you can actually project to your projector without connecting to anything. It's wireless casting, just like wirelessly casting to a TV or wirelessly casting to a Chromecast, Apple TV, or anything of the sort. It's like a little appliance.
All right. Okay.
And of course, when the time does come that we do deploy them, we'll have a healthy amount of PD and instructions to make it as simple as possible to integrate it into your classroom.
All right, and a quick question.
Yes.
I transferred from my Apple computer to my Chrome computer, my HP computer, and it has two cameras, and for some reason I'm projecting now from my camera on the keyboard side. How do you change that up?
Oh, I understand. No worries. So what I'm going to do is go into my Meet settings. So it's in the bottom right here. You can go ahead and go to More Options, Settings, Video, and from there you can choose which camera you're using. So just like with your, yep, it's going to be Settings and then Video, and then change the camera there. There should be two of them. I think one's called a world-facing camera and the other one is called a standard webcam.
It says cameras off. Oh yeah, hang on. Maybe I have to turn the camera back on. All right, thank you. I'll play with that one now that I know where to find it, because that was like scary.
Of course, and if you do have any issues with your camera, whether one is disabled or not showing up properly, you could feel free to just submit a ticket and we'll get that fixed as soon as we can.
Thank you.
Alfred, this is Liz Kaiser.
Howdy.
You're doing a great job. I'm learning so much. Thank you. I have a few questions. One is there's about 10 of me showing up on the screen and I keep popping up. Why?
I'm not entirely too sure without seeing it. You're talking about within Google Meet?
Like right now in this meeting, I don't know why, but I probably have like 10 of me up on the screen and I don't know why.
No worries. That might be an issue with your grid view. In the top right, do you see a little waffle icon by chance?
I do.
Could you click to disable that? It should look like it has a big slice through it.
Yes.
Has that resolved your issue?
Well, yes, but now I only see 3 people now instead of everybody.
Oh, no worries. What you can do from there is in the, oops, sorry, let me pull up mine so you can see it on my screen. If you go to the settings and you go to change layout, you can change your layout to a few different ones. That way it could be a little bit easier for you. So there's a spotlight, a 16-person grid view, a sidebar. The spotlight will show my screen because I'm presenting.
Okay.
Did that help you out?
It does, but I've tried that before, especially if I'm doing a Google Meet with a small group of students. The other problem is when I'm on the Meet, if someone joins after, I can't see that student, so I have to then click out of the Meet and click back in, and then I see them.
That's a pretty wonky issue. That might be caused by the grid view extension. If you could submit a ticket, we can investigate that a little further. We haven't really had any reports of that yet, so that's something we could look into for you.
Okay, that happens a lot. And my other question is the HP computer that I have still at school. I do have the new television, the old smart board's out, and I do have my old computer with the Elmo. So you're saying the Elmo is going to still be able to be hooked up to the new TV?
Correct.
And the old computer, it's still at school. Now, can I transfer all my stuff over from home? Or do I need to get that computer to do so? What's going to happen with those computers?
Well, those computers you could hold on to for the summer. I'm not entirely too sure what the logistical aspect of it, but I believe they're reopening the schools to allow teachers to obtain their personal effects. I'm not sure when that's being scheduled or if that's being done now through the summer, what have you. But any files that are locally stored on that device, like on your desktop, you'll have to physically be at that device in order to get those files uploaded to Google Drive.
Okay, so we were already allowed in the building, and I did not grab that laptop because I didn't know whether I should have or not. So it's still at school.
Okay, I see. Well, you could very well, like I said, I don't know the logistics of it. I don't know if there are any plans to reopen the schools again. That's kind of a Tony and Kathy question.
Okay.
As far as giving teachers and staff another opportunity to obtain their personal effects, I don't know. You'd have to reach out to your site administrator for that. But worst case scenario, the schools will, I can only assume the schools will reopen again come next year. And if they don't, then that's a whole nother conversation. But I'm sure there'll be another opportunity to get your device, yes.
So that means if it's left there, you won't come and take it.
I won't be doing that myself at all. I won't be taking anybody's laptops or personal effects or anything of the sort. Throughout the summer, my work projects will be exclusively working on the VVs and MacBooks and what have you. I'm not going to be, teachers are allowed to have 2 devices until further notice is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, thank you so much. You've been super helpful.
You're very welcome.
Alfred, I have a question on printers again.
Yes.
So I followed your directions and I went in and I hit the plus sign and I found my printer, but the printer, mine is a printer scanner and it's only showing up as a scanner in the list, not as a printer.
So have you tried print? I mean, I know the name cosmetically, it says when you try to add it, it calls itself a scanner. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, so if you X out of that little screen you have open right now, see that list over on the left-hand side? So all the printers are at the top, and when I scroll down it, mine doesn't show until the very bottom where it says scanner.
Yes. So the name scanner might be cosmetic. It might still have its function as a printer. The reason that it's kind of in a wonky order is likely because how we pushed out the printers. It's supposed to be in alphabetical order, so the next time you restart your computer, it might put it in the right place. Oh wait, sorry. It's scanner, so it would be at the bottom, because of alphabetical order. If you could try printing to it still and see if it works for you, and if not, you could submit a ticket and we'll see what we could do to get it right as rain. Some printers do, like we said earlier, some printers require a little bit of extra tinkering or software or what have you.
Thank you very much.
Best of luck. No worries. You're welcome. Alrighty, does anyone have any further questions or?
So how are we going to get the recording of this? Because there's a few things that I missed and I wanted to just review.
Oh, no worries. So that'll be shared via Google Drive.
All right, thank you.
The meet recordings are automatically uploaded to Google Drive, and we'll get that shared with you.
Alfred, is there going to be another PD on how to upload all of our things into Google Drive? Because I don't even know how to start doing that.
No worries. I believe the district already has a number of resources for that. A lot of the tech coaches might have already made some Screencastify videos. Very well, if you do have any issues, like I said, as always, you could always submit a ticket. And if you are having issues, we can get you pointed in the right direction. We do have some resources we can provide you with. Like I said, your best bet if you do need a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a coaching or a specific personalized walkthrough, I would recommend reaching out to your tech coach.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Hi, everyone. It's Jen Graham here. I'm the secondary tech coach. So what I'll do is I'm hearing that that's kind of a thing that a lot of people are going to be needing some help with. So I will make a screencast of that over the next couple of days, and I will share it with the district. And then if you have follow-up questions after the screencast, you can reach out to any of your coaches in your buildings.
Jen Graham. Alfred, first of all, excellent job. This is Amy Watson. And I just want to agree with Jen Graham. If you guys have any questions in regards to your Google Drive, feel free to email us.
Alrighty, with everyone with that, I think we'll be winding this meeting down to a close. Like I said previously, if you ever do have any issues whatsoever, no job too small. You can submit a technology ticket, and we'll either get you resolved or get you pointed in the right direction. Again, if you do have the MacBook, you can reach us through that shortcut on the dock for the Maintenance Technology Support Portal. From there, you're just going to have to click Sign In with Google or click your Google account. Like I said, if you ever do need to reach us, you could feel free to submit a ticket. This PD will be made available to all of you through Google Drive. And if you do have any questions, you know how to reach me.
I do have a quick question. Are you gone?
Gone how?
No, I mean, like, I didn't know if you left the meeting. What is the visualizer at the bottom? It's like a light bulb in a circle.
That is that's an application we pushed out to all of the devices. It's used for USB document cameras. However, you can also use it just as a typical web camera application to take photos and videos. If you don't have a USB webcam in your classroom, it might not be of the most use to you. Excuse me, but it's still there as a utility to record videos and take photographs with.
Okay. Afonso, this is Edith. How are you? Can you join me when this is over? Go to Google. Your microphone is off. Your microphone is off.